We talk about the defensive top fives that I did last week with Tom Vanderford. It's an exciting time. We're getting close to media days. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Steven Willis of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. You know, perspectives are a major part of this show, and Tom Vanderford is a major part of that. Also, don't forget to find a second listen on the network. There are shows literally all over college and pro for you to choose from. Just pick them out, listen, enjoy. Once you happen, you will be absolutely addicted as well. Now, let's go to Tom Vanderford. Tom, we did the defenses. We started with the defense, and I listed the top 5 most important players by position. Did any of those stand out to you?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I thought it was weird. The hardest to list that I had to do over the course of the week was the safeties list and the specialist list. And the specialist list is hard just because nobody covers the specialist. There's no information even out there. So you're having to guess a little bit on returnees and also like Zxavian Harris. I listed him as number 5 because of his field goal block potential.
Right.
But like defensive line and linebackers and even cornerbacks were pretty easy. It was just the safeties and the specialists that was kind of a headache.
Yeah, I appreciated that because when I looked at it, it made me feel a lot more confident about our defense. So, the ordinary fan, during the off season from signing day to now in the summer, you kind of forget some of the kids that joined the squad. So it's nice seeing that out there and reminding yourself, hey, I forgot about that dude.
Yeah, it's weird. Now, Michael Katz and Sam Hutchins do a very good job with the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal and Clarion Ledger, but the emphasis has gone pay to play kind of as to the coverage of Ole Miss athletics. So if you're not willing to pay $10 a month, you're not going to know what's going on and you're not going to have any idea about these players. That's one of the reasons now that it's shifting over to this podcast format, because I honestly believe the Locked On brand is going to be the leader in sports coverage in 10 years. I honestly believe that. But it's those groups that are going to attract the masses in there. You can tell by the numbers on my show. There's people that come back in. I live in Winter Haven, Florida.
Right.
It's not like I'm there every single day, but we're not pay for play.
Right.
And there's probably, I think, about 10,000 people in the Ole Miss fan base that are willing to pay for Ole Miss coverage. The 247 rivals on 3 sites, they all are fighting over the same 10,000 people.
Right.
My question starting in this podcast was, what about the other 55,000 in the stadium that's not willing to pay?
Exactly. Yeah, and you're starting to reach those folks,
Yeah, we got on a little bit of a heater over the last couple of weeks. We had Chris Beard and Coach Yo, and we have a special guest coming next week as well. He's not a coach, but pretty special guest. Our reach that we have is really, really growing. I mean, as far as podcast, I would put this program up on anybody, period.
Isn't that nice? I remember just starting.
Yeah, whenever there were 60 subscribers on the YouTube channel, we were fighting the first half year to get to 1,000. I wanted to get to 1,000 before the College World Series, and Ole Miss won that national championship. And now, by football season, we'll probably hit 15,000 subscribers, and we'll probably go over 5 million views in like 3.5 years. And that is just nuts to think about how much we've grown over the last couple of years.
Well, you give a good product, and like you said, it doesn't cost the user a penny.
Yeah, all it costs them, if you could do us a favor, hit the subscribe button. That is what keeps this free. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you would do that as well. Maybe comment on the story down below if we did a good job or a piss poor job. You can let us know about that. If you do that, it will help us out greatly. It doesn't seem like much, but that is what is able to keep this free and not like the On Threes, the Rivals, and those other sites that is kind of pay for play. This is completely free. I want it to be completely free, and we have fun because it's completely free, honestly.
Exactly.
You know, the top 5 list of linebackers that I did, you know, TJ Daugherty, everybody knows that. Santarin Perkins, everybody knows that. It's the next linebacker position that's interesting, and I went with Jaden Yates. Now, it could be Andrew Jones. It could be the kid from Missouri that transferred in because several veterans are there.
Yeah.
I like Jaden Yates. He's known as the 100-yard landlord because he owns the whole field when he's on the field. It's actually a fairly clever name. I'm going with Jaden Yates at linebacker to be the second linebacker.
Oh, I think so, but we're so deep. When you think about it, we're deep. You know, we got Andrew Jones. He's going to be a good one. We got, you know, I apologize. Sometimes you get that chemo brain, but number 34 has been with us a long time, and I can't think of his name.
Tyler Banks. Tyler Banks.
He's good. So we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. I think with coaching, we're going to have another really good defense. Now, will the defensive line be as heralded as it was last year? No. Will it be as good as it was last year? Yes. I believe it will.
Well, the important thing is, and I'm going to harp on this for essentially the next 2 months. It is important for Jam Brown and Zxavian Harris to both demand double teams.
Right.
It's going to make life easier for the ends. It's going to make life easier for the linebackers. It's going to make life easier for the defense. Jam Brown and Zxavian Harris has to provide the same thing that J.J. Pegues and Walter Nolan did last year.
I agree.
That requiring a double team is going to be very important. And before everybody thinks about it, it's possible. Jam Brown was a freshman All-American in the Southeastern Conference. Zxavian Harris is kind of a dancing bear out there. His athleticism, you've seen him on field goal blocks. This is a 350-pound man that can move. You almost have to double team him.
Exactly.
So if Jam Brown can just demand at least the attention of a double team, that's going to make Prince Will Almon-Mielen better. That's going to make Cam Franklin better. That's going to make Deshaun Womack, Santarin Perkins, all of those guys are going to be better because of that. And don't forget about the linebackers. If those position players demand double teams, it is going to allow the Ole Miss linebackers to run sideline to sideline. The stuff that made Chris Paul so good a year ago, Andrew Jones can do all of that. He is athletic enough to do it sideline to sideline, but he needs those double teams in front of him.
Exactly. And I think that even though we have a lot younger talent, and I'm not gonna say that, you know, Walter Nolan wasn't a generational talent. He's pretty darn good.
He's good. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. And Pegues, you know, was awesome. But I just think our overall depth, I mean, you know, a lot of people keep forgetting Eccles. I think Eccles is going to be a major player on that defensive line. And that lets you know that, you know, they don't have to sit out there all day, that they've got enough depth that, you know, they can swap things around. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk to Tom about the specialist position and a little bit about the Chris Beard and Coach Yo interviews that we did earlier in the week. But first, I do want to let you know, have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly have realized that you want to be in the stands. That is exactly where Game Time comes in. It is the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all of the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. You can even put that money in your pocket. Game Time makes all of that possible. Buying tickets are fast and simple with Game Time. Prices on the app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. My favorite part is seat views. I went to the 2014 Ole Miss Alabama game, and you're trying to think about the sections where they are in the stadium based off of memory. It turns out I was a couple of sections away from the 50-yard line than I thought I was. Game Time makes it to where that's not an issue. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we get back with Tom Vanderford real quick. Now, the specialists are interesting to me. I talked about them a little bit in the first segment, about how it was difficult to do that list because nobody talks about the specialists.
Right.
Lucas Carniero, defending Conference USA Player of the Year, had 5 or 6 field goals of over 50 yards. He's a preseason All-American candidate by field steal. I think that is going to be good. Oscar Bird at the punter position. He is coming over from Australia. He's one of those Australian rules punters that come in. That means they can punt with their left, they can punt with their right, they can punt on the run, they can punt stationary, all of that stuff. They're going to be able to control a punt because you don't want a punt going 60 yards every time you do it. You want it to go 42 yards and control the direction of where it lands. That's what's important. That's why these Aussie rules punters are becoming the main focus of college football. Then you get to the returners, and nobody has been talking about the returners. Nobody, period. You can't find information. So you have to make decisions on that based off of who you think would fit in as a return man. And I like Winston Watkins. Now, a lot of coaches do not like putting freshmen back to return punts. They want somebody back there that can control, maybe a Caden Lee going back that you can control fielding the punt. But I like Winston Watkins, and I think he adds a little bit of that side-to-side movement that would be very good for this Ole Miss team.
Oh, I think he'd be great. And, you know, I've watched some film on him. He's got a lot of moxie.
Yeah, and it comes from the fact Sammy Watkins is his cousin who played in the NFL.
Right.
So it kind of is in the family, the athletic ability. And Winston Watkins winning, he was a 5-star on Rivals for a reason. He's out of Venice High School in the Fort Myers area. He's just a really good player, and he showed out in the spring. It seems like every time they put highlights up in the spring, it was Winston Watkins, Winnie Watkins making a play.
Exactly. So, you know, and you think about him, you think about Cunningham, you think about the other receivers we've got. I just don't know. And you know, Lane may, you know, think differently, of course, but I just don't think you put your go-to wide receiver back there.
Yeah. There's always a chance that he could get hurt on special teams and mess up your. I that's the reason I like the idea of Winnie Watkins being back there.
Yeah, me too.
Similarly, I've got Kewan Lacey returning kickoffs.
Cool.
When you look at Lane Kiffin and what he likes, he generally likes a running back there returning the kickoffs. Whether it was Ulysses Bentley a year ago, well, we're not going to go down that road, but Jerry and Ely before that, a running back has usually been the kickoff returner. The problem for Ole Miss is you're not going to put Logan Diggs back there. Good running back, excellent, lots of yards, but he's not the breakaway threat that you want returning kicks. You're not going to put Shakai Mills-Knight for him being a freshman and the fact that he's 220 pounds. He's a big guy. You're probably not going to put Damian Taylor back there because of what he can do. that leaves Keywan Lacey. He is the running back with the breakaway potential that could be a problem returning kickoffs.
Oh yeah. I just, it amazes me, back when I was younger, if we had a good season that the next year we lost a lot of folks, it took some time to rebuild again when you lost people like we've lost the last, 2 years. But it just amazes me with this portal and this NIL, how you can just reload.
Yeah, and I like to tell people all the time, and Walker Jones has said something similar. He says he wants $1 to spend like 3.
Yeah.
And my saying is Ole Miss has a healthy collective, but Ole Miss does not have a wealthy collective, which means if somebody is just out there for the money, which a lot of prospects are, that's not a dirty word at this point. If Texas, if one of the big boys, if one of the super rich come into play, it could be problematic.
Oh yeah, it can. But we started this off with the Oakland A's model, the money ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're just going to keep doing that.
Yeah. So let's change the subject real quick just for a second. Chris Beard, 2 weeks ago, came on the program. He was awesome, by the way. He's a great person to talk to, especially about like some of the big things about the college basketball game. Coach Yo came on the program. We talked about that in the first segment as well. Season tickets for basketball, I think, go on sale either now or July 1st. I've heard it both ways. But it's a situation where Coach Yo is begging for fans to make a home court advantage for her team. And she said, Tom, if you do not have a good time at women's basketball, reach out to her. She will pay you back.
Yeah. She's something else. Yeah, she's done so much and she's put her heart and soul into it. And it'd be nice to see us do, like Tennessee used to, you sell out the arena for the girls' games as well. She's trying. And, if after I retire, I'll probably make a few games down there as well.
Yeah, and the problem that Ole Miss has is the same problem that several places have. This is not a new thing, but Ole Miss is kind of situated in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
In Oxford. So it's hard for people from Jackson, from Brandon, from Meridian, from Vicksburg, heck, from Winona, to make a trip to Oxford, Mississippi on a Wednesday night after you get off work, after the kids get off school. Yep. Everybody understands that. Even the coaches understand that. The question becomes, how do you make Ole Miss women's basketball or just Ole Miss basketball what you want it to be, knowing that is probably the question.
Yeah. I think, to be honest with you, I think there needs to be some more student involvement at the girls' games. Especially when they're on campus. But you got to remember too, they're there to get an education. So, if they, studying and all that good stuff. So, talking about the people that would actually come to the games. And that may impede that a little bit as well.
We'll see how it goes. Anyway, what do you got going on this weekend?
Well, I'm going to tell everybody something that'll make them laugh. As soon as I get off with you, I've got to go to town and get a new coffee pot because my wife broke the coffee pot this morning, and I've got to have some coffee.
I understand that. My wife has gone all in on Keurigs.
Yeah.
The single serving thing.
Yeah.
And that's weird because me and my wife, we're both Navy people. You were a Navy person as well. You know how coffee is to the Navy.
Yeah, right.
But she is pretty fired up now about how she can mix up what she's having each time with individual servings, and you're not locked into eating 3-day or drinking 3-day-old black coffee, which is kind of the Navy way.
Yeah, I usually drink coffee and then turn the pot off, and the next day in the morning. There'll be some left. I'll pour it in a cup, put it in the microwave. I'm good to go.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
old squid.
Yep. People don't realize how we make do. People in the Navy make do. There's just a tradition, a thought process of what goes on with that. Anyway, thank you, Tom. We'll talk to you next week, buddy.
Yes, sir. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy. Tom Vanderford joining the show each week like he always does. Do not forget to find a second listen on the program. Brian Smith and the Portal Podcast is there for you. All the latest commitments and transfers and the changes in college football. Be the most important, most informed fan out there. Brian Smith, the host of the Locked On Portal Podcast, right here for you. All right, we will talk to you later. Thank you very much. Tune in, I guess, Monday for the latest and greatest on Ole Miss sports. We'll see you later.